change some brake pads and rotors today on our Ford. Let's open up boxes and see what we got.
Box number 2.
Let's grab our tire iron tool, and on your hub cover there's a slot here. Tire iron just goes in there. Pop it out. So your lug nuts here, we're going to loosen all of these. Not take them off, but just loosen them, and then we'll jack up the truck and finish taking them off. So they're all broken loose. We'll just go ahead and jack it up and finish taking the tire off. Okay. The wheel's free. We'll go ahead and finish taking these lug nuts off. When you get to the bottom ones, the way the tire will push out and tighten them, just kick your foot against it. It'll come right off. And the reason we broke them free, well, it was still on the ground, so the tire didn't spin. It's a lot easier to break them free when it's got the weight on it. Okay. Lug nuts are off. We want to go ahead and put these somewhere where we won't lose them, and then we'll pull the tire. Alright, so here we have our brake rotor. This is our caliper, and then our brake pads are inside that caliper. And when you press the brakes, this caliper squeezes together. There's a pad on each side. It squeezes the brake pad together, which makes the truck stop. So we're going to go ahead and loosen up and remove the caliper, and we'll pull that away, and then we'll pull off the rotor, match everything up, and then replace them. Okay, so now we're going to remove the caliper. So there are these little plug covers for the bolts. So you'll need to pull that off. And this particular one takes a T45. Alright, this bottom was a little more stubborn. It had come out, but it was just sitting there spinning, so I had to get a screwdriver in there and on the back side of it and just pop it loose. So next you want to remove this little spring clip here from the front. And then we'll wiggle the caliper off. And there it is, there's 2 pistons right there. And when you push the brake pedal, they compress together and squeeze on the rotor right here. So on this particular one, the rotors are warped, and that's why we're replacing them. When you step on the brake, you get a real heavy pulse in the front end. So let's go ahead and pull the pads off, and we'll set them off to the side. Set this off to the side. This is how these, on this particular this is a Ford Expedition 2004. That's how those are held inside of the pistons. Alright, so now we're going to release this. There's 2 bolts at the back side to pull that off, and then we can take the rotor off. Oh God, that's heavy. Might need a longer bar. We're going to go a little ghetto because those are on really tight. So we're going to take our wrench, and I have a working clamp, a steel tube. We're going to slide that inside, and that'll give us a lot of extra leverage. The same on top. Second bolt and caliper holder. So those just go through our bracket there and hold them in place. Okay, now the rotor. I believe the rotor doesn't want to come off. I believe it's just slightly rusted in place. We're going to give it a gentle tap. A little bit rusted on. There's the old one. So I want to make sure that I got a set of front and rears. The rears are a little bit bigger than the front. So I just want to match up, make sure first of all I got the right thing. Holes line up. Outer dimensions line up. Make sure that I have the correct ones. The other thing too we want to keep in mind is that these are slotted, so they're handed left and right. So you want to make sure you put them on the right side. Alright, so for example, this one even has an R on it, which lets you know it's the right hand side.
And would that be right from if you're sitting in the driver's seat?
Yes. Yes. And so as it's spinning, you want it to pass the pads like that. Okay, so now we're just going to put it back on the way we took it off. Put it on there, and then it kind of lift up and push it over the hub. It should be nice and tight. And now we're just going to go back in reverse. We're going to put the caliper holder back on and kind of go back the way we came. And that's a general rule anytime you're lining up multiple bolts. Get them all started and then tighten them. We want to make sure that these are nice and tight. We'll even put this bar back on. Give it just a little bit of a snug down. Not too much, but a little bit. I'm sure there's technical specifications for torquing those down, but you saw how tight they were coming off, so you want it to be plenty tight, but don't overdo it. The reason that we are replacing these is because they were warped. Now, we could have just pulled them off and had them surfaced. A while back I had some heavier metal flake pads put on because we were doing towing, and I want a little more aggressive pad on there. Well, the factory rotors couldn't handle the heat, so they ended up warping. So these pads are actually still in really good shape, as you can see. Still a lot of life left in them. So we're going to go ahead and put these back on, and I'll save these for the next time. So we are going to compress these pistons back in a little bit, just so they slide on nice and easy. But before we do that, we can pop the cap on the brake fluid reservoir to relieve some of the pressure of the fluid getting pushed back in. Okay, brake fluid reservoir. We're just going to pop that. Leave that sitting right like there so nothing gets in it, but it still can breathe. So I told you this was a ghetto video, so I don't want to scratch up my my pads I'm putting back on there. So I'm going to use a piece of wood and some oil filter pliers to compress that back in there. I'm just going to stick the wood up there, crank these out all the way, and give it some good steady pressure. And then we're going to switch to their side, do the same, and just kind of work back and forth. Alright, so now we're going to put our brake pad back inside, and it just pushes in and clips in. And the other pad. And then we'll stick this back on there. Okay, we'll put those little plug covers back in. And then we'll put that spring clip back on the front. Put the spring clip back in. Easiest way is probably to pop that in there. Catches air spring forward. And then kind of put the angle back. Pressure on like that. Alrighty. Alright, let's put this wheel back on. Okay, so let's got our lug nuts back on. And we'll do this in reverse order. We'll get them threaded all the way on and somewhat tight. Then we'll drop the jack, get some pressure back on the tire, and finish tightening them.
Now, are you going to be going in a star pattern here, or?
When I go to do the final tightening on it, I'll go in a star pattern. I'm just snugging them up. I started with the bottom lug, just so it would draw the bottom of the tire in, rather than starting at the top. And I'm just getting them close, and then, like I say, we'll put some pressure on them, and then finish tightening them. As you can see, that's why we'll drop the tire and put the pressure on so it doesn't walk around on us like that. Okay, we'll do that real quick. Okay, so now we'll finish tightening the tire, and we'll kind of go in a star pattern. There's 6 lugs, so it's not a little harder for a star pattern on that, but you get the idea. The reason for typically going in a star pattern, or not just starting at one edge and going all the way around, is you get to tighten better. Alright, so now we're going to pop back on our lug nut cover, or hub cover. So just line this up. And give it a good whack with your hand. There you go. Back on there. Alright. 1 down, 3 more to go. Sure, you can wear gloves while you're doing it, but there's a certain satisfaction that comes with getting your hands dirty. Alright, let's take it for a spin.
Are you pleased with the performance?
Yep, we'll do a couple more quick stops to get that black oxide coating burned off. No shimmy, love it.
Tell us a little bit about yourself. No, for reals. Tell me your name.
Robert.
And your favorite person in the world.
My wife, Dee.
Who is also doing your camera work for you today.
Love you.
Love you.